a trip to Insanity Island.
Okay, we're on.
Whoa!
We're doing it.
You mean another episode of Insanity Island is being recorded?
We're back. We're back, baby.
Wow.
I don't even know
what.
I don't even know what it means.
We've had a 3-week absence, so we're back.
We had a nice 3-week vacation. We're rested up.
For those of you that have been anxiously awaiting, we are back. We have returned.
Todd couldn't be here today.
To our 2 fans out there, Chris's mom and Richard's mom. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there watching.
We had our 3rd biggest viewership last video.
Happy Mother's Day.
Most of our viewership is our moms. Okay.
Right.
So let's get right into it. It is the May 14th, 2023 in the year of our Lord. And here we go. We're going Trump town hall meeting on CNN. CNN actually came out after, there's lots to discuss about this, but CNN came out after the town hall meeting, if you want to call it that, more of a grilling by that CNN reporter, Caitlin Collins. But CNN had to go out and apologize to their viewers for having Trump on. What does that say about the, quote, impartial media? Ask you, Richard Sheffield.
Well, that's obviously a loaded question, Tim. There is no impartial media. We all know that. What was more interesting was that, you know, it was probably what a town hall should be, which is lively discussion, lively debate, and, you know, having, you know, tough questions asked and then tough answers given. Now, you know, CNN should have known what they were walking into. Frankly, they had far higher viewership than they normally do for that hour. I think it was like 3 or 4 times the number. And but the backlash, not amongst regular old Joes and Janes walking on the street, but CNN people revolted, including Anderson Cooper and you know, and a lot of their reporters. And in fact, one of the reporters ended up getting called into the office of the CNN president and told, knock it off, you know, you're out of line or you're going to be fired. So stop criticizing the town hall. So the real question I have is CNN truly trying to kind of be more of a straight up news source, or are they still wanting to, you know, some of their people are clinging to the, you know, we're the mouthpiece of the DNC. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I thought Byron Donalds had a fantastic rebuttal. I was amazed that CNN invited him to be on the panel to talk about the post show. And man, he just laid it right there on the line about how so impartial it was. They had a 31-year-old Caitlin Collins, okay, as the moderator, if you want to call it a moderator, more like a leftist attack dog. Chris, what did you think of the job that Caitlin Collins did moderating that that town hall with Trump?
I thought it was awesome. I thought she did a great job.
Really?
Yeah, she made a total ass of the entire left. I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Oh, okay.
She fell right into his trap the second he walked on the stage, and she just kept digging a hole and just doing it. I mean, she did what any of them would have done, which is be personal. And what about your rape thing? And you're just a bad fat man, and you're orange. I sure don't like you. So she did her job well. That's what the left looks like. That's what they act like. And she portrayed them very well, I thought. That's what they are, idiots.
Yeah, I mean, if
they did nothing but help him.
Yeah.
That's all they did was help him.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, that's a good point. If elections were determined based on policy.
My favorite part is when he fact-checked her on the stage. That was awesome.
That was
he
great. He
pulled his phone out and he goes, oh, right here. Actually, I said this, that, and the other. This is reported by CNN.
That particular question was, why did he wait 3 hours to address the you know, the crowd going into a little bit of a frenzy?
I'm gonna fact check you right
pulled
now.
out his paper and said, hey, I addressed it immediately, but Twitter deleted my tweet.
That's right.
And
he did it the day before thing even
that,
happened.
and I mean, that was pure gold. That
It was
was
awesome. The audience was
That was pure
cracking
gold.
up. Everybody knew this was going to be a meme, while we were watching it.
Richard. If the next presidential election, whoever the party nominees turn out to be, whether it's Trump or DeSantis or Biden or whoever, if the election was purely based upon policy decisions and how things should be governed, as opposed to the candidate's personality, do you think that Republicans would win overwhelmingly, or is Trump's personality somehow kind of getting in the way of how people, are determining which way our country should go?
That's a long
Yeah,
question.
clearly Trump's personality is in the way. I mean, there's just no question about it. His personality just sucks all the air out of a room. He likes it that way. That's part of his, his ego playing out. There's a poll that just came out this morning that said 63% of independents, 63% do not want Joe Biden in 2024. The Republicans would crush the Democrats because the policies of pro-business growth, strong military, good values, across America, not cutting off genitals of 8-year-olds,
Having a border.
protecting the border, which is clearly not going on at the moment, as tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, are let in. Those are all things that the Americans support. Having a reasonable policy on even tough issues like abortion, those are all issues Republicans and frankly independents support. But people vote on personality. There are times I don't want to watch a movie because of the actor or actress involved, and that affects things.
Yeah. Pendo, do you think that Trump's personality of being just unapologetically aggressive when it comes to attacking any opponent of his, whether it be a Republican in a primary like Jeb Bush, how he attacked, and he had lying Ted Cruz. So he, in the primary, he attacks Republicans, and even while he's office, he attacked rhinos that he felt were rhinos. He called them rhinos, as well as Democrats. Do you think that has helped him more or has hurt him more?
It's hurting more. His poll numbers would be even better if he didn't go after people like Ted Cruz, people like DeSantis. Just back off. You don't have to attack these people. You're not in danger of losing anything to them because people like you're the big star. So just don't insult them. Yeah, your poll numbers are good. They could be better if you didn't do that.
It's interesting, though. It's interesting. Every time Trump gets attacked, his poll numbers seem to go up.
But they would go up more if he didn't. Oh, no, attacked by the left.
Well, yes. Attacked by
a rhino, an actual rhino, like Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a real rhino. It can't be DeSantis.
Who Trump defines as a rhino, and we can debate about what is a rhino. I mean, I think some people say if you're against Trump, you're a rhino. Some people say if you're just siding with the Democrats, you're a rhino. So there's varying definitions of what a rhino actually is. But if a rhino determined by Trump attacks him, his poll numbers go up. If the Democrats attack him, his poll numbers go up. So, I mean, we can say that a lot of Trump's negative is his personality.
I'm just saying they'd be better if he didn't do it.
Agree with Chris.
Well, on the surface, it appears that way. However, if Trump was more of a meek, mild,
that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about.
He
doesn't have to be meek, Tim, but he doesn't have to be a jackass to the other candidates the other Republicans like.
Agreed.
Don't do that. Act like you can play with others from time to time.
Well, here's the deal. When Trump is attacked, as you say it, that's awesome. Let them attack him. His poll numbers do go up. What Chris is saying, and what I completely agree with him and saying for a long time, is be the victim. Americans love victims. and then keep your mouth shut, especially if I'm not saying don't go back on policy discussions, don't go back on fact checks, but don't insult people's mothers. Don't make fun of their wives with cancer. Don't make fun of John McCain getting taken prisoner by the North Vietnamese. Like, there's just certain things he says that are just ridiculous, and it's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing.
Well,
and that's why Chris is saying his poll numbers would shoot up, but they do come down somewhat for what they could be when he starts mouthing off and getting into personal attacks on people.
But also he doesn't seem to distinguish between, like, say, DeSantis, who he's just mad because he's running,
Right.
But
Yeah.
he's, I mean, don't get mad because the guy's running.
No, Chris. I think it's more that, Trump is not mad at Ron DeSantis just for running. I don't think it's that. I think it's that he endorsed DeSantis. If we're not for Trump, Ron DeSantis may. It's
No.
There's
basically the same thing.
Okay. But you're missing my point. What I'm trying to say is Trump can't distinguish between the Jeb Bushes and the DeSantises. He lumps them all together. I don't, and neither does Richard, neither do you. We know who the rhinos are. They're Romney, McCain, Jeb Bush. Those guys you can attack all damn day long, and I'll be right there with you. But when you start going after the guys that are actually achieving things conservative-wise, don't do it. Just don't say anything about them.
Well,
the
the only real conservative
DeSantis has never attacked Trump.
Hang on. The only real conservative that I've seen Trump attack, other than Ted Cruz in the primary back in 2016, lying Ted, is DeSantis. Okay, and I think he's attacking DeSantis because Trump feels like, hey, I made this guy, and here he is coming against me in my last shot. Whereas DeSantis probably could run for president, 7 more times, because DeSantis is what, 44 years old?
Yeah, we're not even sure he's running anymore.
He attacked Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp is not a rhino. I mean, the only
that's debatable, Richie.
The only quote unquote liberal thing that Kemp did was not undermine the Georgia election. Now, did cheating go on? I think there was cheating. However, but that doesn't make him a rhino. That just, I mean, frankly, maybe he knows more than I do about.
There's some more issues about Brian Kemp.
Plus, his future son-in-law got blowed up.
Let me give you some other examples about why a lot of people think Brian Kemp is a rhino. He would not jump on the bandwagon of eliminate the Georgia state income tax thing like Florida, Tennessee, Texas. Okay. So a lot of people label him for rhino for that. A lot of people label him a rhino for not going with Doug Collins to appoint to the United States Senate. He went with a no-name Kelly Loeffler. The third thing is he wouldn't side with Buckhead becoming its own.
Yeah, that pissed me off there.
Brian Kemp sided with the Democrats on that one too. So Brian Kemp has sided with the Democrats on a lot of issues. So it's not just the election fraud thing, although that's a huge thing. Brian Kemp should have dove into that election fraud thing head first, and he refused to do it. So it's more than just he, was against Trump on that.
Donald Trump does not even probably know about the Buckhead issue, honestly. Donald Trump does not know about how Brian Kemp may or may not want a state income tax versus a state consumption tax. Donald Trump only cared that Brian Kemp didn't back him on the election, and that's all it took. Because frankly, he started attacking Kemp before all those other policy decisions even came down the road. So Donald Trump is not about conservative republicanism. Donald Trump is about Donald Trump, and that's
Okay.
Keep your mouth shut about attacking. Pick your battles, and then have someone. It could be your wife review your Twitter post before you post them, and he would have won the election. His personality cost him.
Oh, not this last election. He wouldn't have won.
Yeah. His personality.
No. I mean, they were cheating. He wasn't going to win it.
Well, maybe so. I don't disagree with that. But what I'm saying is 5% of the vote overall, at least, maybe even more, because I know people that would have voted for him, but they said, I just don't think he has the personality. Anyway, we've discussed
But,
it before, but
you know, yeah, I know, and we're gonna pivot. We're gonna pivot over to the Trump rape case as well. But let me just kind of summarize a point about this. A lot of Republicans are leaning towards DeSantis, and the reason they're doing it isn't because of policy, it's because of personality. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and throw something out here. They're assuming that Ron DeSantis has a better personality than Trump. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people on the inside there in Florida that know Ron DeSantis, work closely with Ron DeSantis. They say his personality is horrible, that he's very short with people. He doesn't spend time with high-level staffers. He's very arrogant. He's very egotistical. We don't even know Ron DeSantis' real personality yet.
None of that matters.
Stage. He is not a social person, Ron DeSantis.
None of that matters, Tim.
Hang on. I'm saying that Ron DeSantis' personality has not been tested on a national stage. So I think this has not worked itself out yet. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised of some negative attributes on Ron DeSantis' personality. I mean, if this is a personality decision, then I think a lot of voters need to do a lot more due diligence on Ron DeSantis' personality, because his personality is not good. And
You
this
in the
is
blue shirt.
people that know Ron DeSantis very well. Pendo, your point.
Dude, it doesn't matter. I don't care if he's the devil himself. When he gets on stage, that's what people see, and that's what works, and that's what won him one of the biggest landslides in the history of the United States in every single governor election in our history. It's what he did. His policies are phenomenally conservative. He does what he says he's going to do.
So
Is
did
it
Trump.
maybe
So did
see-
Trump. Trump has always done what he said
No,
he's gonna
I'm not trashing Trump. What I'm saying is that I don't care what his personality is like behind the staff. Are you going to do what you say? Good. End of story. But the bottom line is it's all about impression. It's all about what people see of you. So it doesn't matter what he's like behind. And quite frankly, I don't believe stories like that when you hear he's a jerk and stuff. Usually that's not true. It's, somebody that didn't get a raise or something and they're mad.
Well, I think what we're seeing here, and I think it's very tragic, what we're seeing here is Trump is being punished in a dual justice system because of his personality as well as his policies.
Well,
Richard, you had a
it's like
point.
Baby Huey in a Chinese shop.
Yeah, Trump. I'm gonna one quick point on the DeSantis thing. Then I want to talk about the rape case. Trump came out already and started running anti-DeSantis ads nationally based on how he ate pudding.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, that's not policy discussion.
Stupid to do that.
It is stupid, and it violates Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment of don't bash other Republicans.
Yeah, because eventually it's going to make you look bad.
And what it does do is it gets people like us on a hyper conservative podcast debating whether Trump really should be president or not.
I
And
want
if
to vote for Trump. I'd rather have Trump there.
if
Stop doing this.
right, that's all I'm saying is keep your mouth shut. Tone it down from 100. Tone it down from 11. Quoting Nigel
Wait till
Tufnell.
that 9.
This is how great. This is how great Reagan was. Do y'all remember that in 1980 during the Republican primary, that whole "I paid for this microphone" thing, and that boosted. That was a huge boost to Reagan, and he kind of rolled through the primaries after that. What Reagan was doing there, and Richard, you probably know this. You're a student of political races. Is that he was defending his opponent's right to speak in that town hall. That was another town hall debate sort of format, and the moderator was not allowing some of those people in the primary to speak. I think George W. Bush may have been one of them.
He was
Bob Dole, I think Bob Dole was another one, and Reagan was defending their right. Bob Dole, George W. Bush's right, not George W. Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush.
H.W.
George Herbert Walker Bush's right to speak, and he came to defense it. So to Richard's point, Reagan was a master politician. You're absolutely right, Richard. He did abide by that rule. You don't attack fellow Republicans, and that strategy won for him. Trump's strategy is obviously very, very different. But at any rate, on to the rape case. Okay, so Donald J. Trump was accused of rape, okay, by a woman who couldn't remember when it was. There were no witnesses, but good gosh, she was raped. He was found not guilty of that, but then the jury turned around and awarded her. Was it the same jury?
Yes.
I want to ask you. It was the same jury that awarded her the $5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't. So it went from criminal court to civil court in the same jury, the same judge.
No. It never went to criminal court. The criminal people said we don't have any evidence to do anything to him. So she sued, and this stupid New York jury, which I'm sure was really unbiased. Yeah, there you go, Richard. This stupid New York jury found him liable for, even though they said he didn't rape her, but he did sexually abuse her and defamed her. Even though they said he didn't rape her, they found him guilty of defaming her because he said he insulted her for saying, he defended himself against her accusation. They said, yeah, he's right, but we're going to find that he defamed her for saying that. It's like, what the hell?
And this
This is insane.
This is the same woman, by the way, that went on Anderson Cooper that said rape is exciting.
Yeah.
Part of what first of all, it couldn't be a criminal case because statute of limitations had passed, right?
Yeah.
So that was why it wasn't.
And there was no evidence. There was no evidence.
And they're clearly, I mean, one wonders, why did this woman wait 30 something years to bring this forward, right? I mean, that's a whole separate topic. But what I would say is 2 points about this case. Trump did not testify. And this speaks to our earlier point of the baggage with Trump's personality. If they had put Trump on the stand, he would have had to answer questions of, did you say grab women by
He did do a videotape testimony, however.
Of a deposition, which was not good. I watched the deposition.
It made him look worse, I think.
Yeah, it did, which is why they didn't put him on the stand, because if any of us were opposing attorneys, we would have said, Donald Trump, did you say?
Yeah, but Richard, did you know that they allowed all the stuff about him to come out, but the judge wouldn't allow anything about her?
I'm not defending her. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing.
Well, that's why he said he didn't testify. He's like, I'm not going to subject myself to that.
What I'm doing is making a point that Trump, that he does have baggage, which is back to the political side of this case. He couldn't go up on the stand and defend himself like any of us probably would, because he said so much crazy stuff about grabbing women by the pee, and because he's famous, he gets laid more often. There's stuff like that he had, where I can kiss women and not ask their permission because they like it. He says stuff like that.
Not a good look with women voters.
No, what he said, he never said I can kiss them without their permission. He said, because I'm famous, they just let you can. They want you to do this. I mean, it's stupid, but he didn't say that in public. Somebody picked him up recording saying that.
But he says it. That's the point. And if they put him on the stand, he would have had to have acknowledged that he said. I
can think of much worse that Joe Biden said in public.
Again, I'm not defending Joe Biden. I'm saying that the reason they didn't put Donald Trump on the stand was because he has said so many ridiculously offensive things that, now with that said, that's sort of point number one.
Honestly, that's why I love the guy.
Well, I don't love him because of what he says about women. That's not, honestly, if he, that's just
nothing worse than anything I've heard from any of them.
And that might be how famous people think. It might be how rock stars think. It might be how movie stars act. But we're not talking about Rob Lowe. We're not talking about, Gene Simmons from Kiss. This is a guy who wants to be president of the United States again.
How about Joey B sniffing little girls' hair?
Look, I mean, he's.
Well, I think the big takeaway about this, Richard, and what a lot of people are talking about is that regardless of Trump helped himself or hurt himself in that video deposition and whatnot, and he sounded a little bit arrogant and so forth, do we have a dual justice system based on your beliefs? Richard, what do you think?
I think the problem is, I would suggest a dual justice system that is based on the dichotomy within the United States and certain regions versus other regions. This case would not have probably resulted in what the verdict was if it was held in Texas or in Florida or in Georgia. It happened in New York. And if it had happened in San Francisco, it probably would have been awarded $25 million.
Which also takes us to our next subject, the Marine getting arrested. That wouldn't have happened in any other state.
We're going to pivot to that right after.
Well, what I'm saying, it fits with this.
That's right.
Right. That's my point. Is that that's why certain court cases are filed in certain circuits, on the federal level, because the judges that are there, and the juries that are in.
Like the Alvin Bragg case, he can't even tell us what the crime is. I don't have to tell you.
I don't. So now, with that said, Tim, a whole different illustration of your point is dual justice system is things like, why is it Hunter Biden being aggressively pursued by the DOJ? Now that's
yes, exactly.
But so that's a little bit different than the Trump thing with respect to a case filing in New York City. But
Biden actually committed crimes.
Point taken is that the justice system is broken and that it is not consistently applying laws, no matter what we're talking about.
I think we could fix this by making sure that the DA, the Attorney General of the United States, the person in charge of the DOJ, is of neither party and is appointed by Congress. That's what needs to happen.
Well,
you don't need
we're a long way from that.
President who obviously the guy's going to work for.
We're a long way from that. But what I think is sad is that if you were to take 100 Biden voters at random and put them in a room, and you were to take 100 Trump voters at random and put them in a room, and you were to go to the room on the left, the Biden voters, and say, hey, voters, raise your hand if you think we have a dual justice system. How many of those Biden voters would raise their hand, Richard?
100. I think 100 of them would.
No.
Yeah. Hear me out.
No.
They feel that the police are radically aggressive towards minorities. They also feel
okay. They think there's a dual justice system that's attacking minorities. Is that okay?
And they would say there are far more black people in jail than there are white people as a percentage. There are far more cases being, brought against, and this is actually true across America. Even though San Francisco and New York City and other famous exceptions to this rule, they think that there are radically more criminalizations of activities on the part of poor people, minority people. So Tim, they would agree. I think you would have 200 people, 100 in one room, 100 in another room, all raise their hand. But to my point, they're completely coming at it from different angles.
Okay, two different worlds.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, but that just proves that their side is stupid, and they don't know things, and they don't live in reality, and they don't know what's going on, and they think they're living back in 1898, and they think that Martin Luther King freed the slaves. That's those people.
Yeah, well, in 1898,
I don't want to listen to them.
In 1898, in the larger cities, we actually had a lot more law and order. You know, if you got caught stealing a horse, you'd be hung. Okay.
Well, you also had a lot more black people with the family unit intact.
True.
You had the father teaching their kids to be good people.
True.
That doesn't happen anymore. Not in the inner city.
The last thing I'll say on this rape case is we will likely have a Republican candidate running for president who was found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman in a court.
Cool. He was also impeached twice. I don't care anymore. They can do whatever they want to. I don't care what they do to Trump.
You're very typical of. I'm just saying, wow, like that's not something I frankly would like to see.
Yeah, but I think it's going to get thrown out.
It might, and it might be.
They have to have evidence. They had no evidence. As a matter of fact, the jury found against their own evidence. They found against their own findings, which is just stupid.
If that person in the case, if they had just said John Doe is being accused of this, they probably would have not found in favor of the plaintiff.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
not for $5 million. I mean, obviously that was because Trump's a billionaire, right? I mean, $5 million. I mean, how absurd and ridiculous when there was zero evidence. I mean,
this was like Kavanaugh all over again.
Completely absurd. And speaking of which, we do have a regular Joe Blow in the name of Daniel Perry. Okay, except his case is much more serious. He's being accused of manslaughter, which could put him in jail for 10 to 20 years. Okay. This isn't a civil case. This is a criminal case for putting Jordan Neely, who was a homeless Michael Jackson impersonator who was threatening people, okay, on a subway, put him in a chokehold maneuver to restrain him, not to harm him, but to restrain him, and he ended up dying. Richard, is this another example of a dual justice system?
I do think that the first of all, the guy really does look kind of like Michael Jackson. Have you guys ever seen him?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was years ago. Now he's just a criminal. Beat up an old woman, busted her freaking nose, messed up her some other bone in her body. He's a criminal. He attacks people.
Yeah, he doesn't look like Michael Jackson there. He looks like a guy that's getting restrained on the
subway.
Look,
I see a black guy also restraining him.
And understand, right before that chokehold, he was threatening people physically.
He said, I will kill you all.
Okay, so,
I don't care if I die.
You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you restrain them, you can be in trouble. If you don't do anything to restrain them, people are going to say, hey, well, why don't the men stand up and take care of this?
Well, not just that, he could have had a bomb on him.
And if this happened in I don't know, Oklahoma City, this guy would not be getting charged. There's just no way. If this had happened in Boise, Idaho, in Denver, Colorado, in New Orleans, Louisiana, this guy would not be getting charged.
Did you see what Mayor Adams said? The guy, what's his name? Neely?
Yeah. Jordan Neely.
He didn't deserve to be murdered, and he's black. He looks like me. I'm like,
what does looking like him have anything to do with it?
No, why would the mayor? That's like trying to stoke racism.
And he doesn't look at all like Michael Jackson.
No, but they're black. That's his point.
Oh no.
And it sickens me. It freaking sickens me to see the mayor of New York getting up there and making that a thing.
Here's how I see that whole thing. And look, I wasn't on the subway car. I didn't hear what the guy said. But bad things happen when you start threatening people on subway cars. And
not in New York anymore. You can do whatever you want now.
Did Neely? He didn't plan on killing the guy. I mean, so the worst case scenario is it should be manslaughter and I mean, he didn't mean to. I mean, he was just trying to restrain the guy and put him in a chokehold.
He shouldn't be charged with anything. He should be giving a fucking medal.
The problem is the guy was threatening people in a subway train. Like that's the source of the problem.
He was threatening everybody. I will kill all of you.
Yeah.
At that point, you don't know if he's got a bomb or not.
Yeah. I'm flying up to Vegas to this afternoon. If I am on an airplane and some guy stands up and starts shouting that,
I'm going to kill all
put him in a chokehold and he happens
to die.
I didn't mean to kill him because he was black or white or it's because he's yelling he's got a bomb. He's going to blow up an airplane. Like that's rational behavior on the part of a person. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, this guy would be called a hero because he prevented someone from killing a bunch of people on a subway train.
He should have been ruled death by suicide.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
My question to you guys is this. There's no doubt that crime in the big cities has escalated. It's probably doubled because the local leadership, for whatever reason, is anti-police and all this nonsense. So crime's gone way up. do you think that this will create a chilling effect for regular, ordinary people if they see a crime going on to get involved in trying to prevent a crime?
Yeah.
Now that this poor man is looking at 10, 20 years in prison, I ask you, Chris Pendarvis.
Yeah, look what happened in Texas. Another Soros-funded DA. That guy got, I think, what, he get life in prison because he defended himself? You remember that? It was a Black Lives Matter in the middle of the road.
I think the governor's going to pardon him, though, right?
Well, he's going to try if they do it, but he shouldn't even have been charged.
Correct.
He was stuck by protesters that were bouncing the truck up and down. He's got his wife with him. All of a sudden, one of the protesters aimed a rifle at him. What's he supposed to do? I mean, my God. And then he drove off and they arrested him for murder. He got convicted of murder.
Not manslaughter, but
Unbelievable.
murder for simply defending himself. Richard,
Yeah.
do you think that man in Texas had a right to defend himself in that situation?
Yeah, because the guy he killed was flashing a gun, right? So
He aimed it at him.
yeah,
All the witnesses said he aimed it.
I
What's he supposed to do?
yeah, he clearly that guy should not be in prison. That guy, someone
I
pointed
mean,
a
they
gun
were
at
the
him.
ones protesting. They were the ones blocking the road. He was
This guy's
trying
driving-
not to be there.
This guy's like driving to go pick up, I don't know, like his pizza or wherever he was going.
Look what they did. Look at Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right.
Kyle Rittenhouse. That should never have gone to court. We saw the videos all over YouTube of him being attacked, and he's fired to stop them from killing him.
And this is a case where, like I said in my earlier point on the 2 rooms, I could easily, if I'm inside the Biden voter room, I could bring up examples of where people should be charged, or where crimes have been overlooked against minorities, or where police brutality has existed. So I'm actually like, I'm someone like going back and forth between the rooms going, they have a good point. And then I go to the other room and listen to us and I go, they have a good point. I mean, there's a
They used to have a good point. They don't have a good point anymore.
Richard, cite me an example in the past 3 years of a minority being unduly accused of a crime and going to prison. Just one. Just give me one. Just one example.
I don't have one off the top of my head, but there's no way, Tim, that isn't happening, and there also is no way that.
Yeah, but Richard, if it was happening, the media would jump on that and broadcast that everywhere.
I don't
They
think
love
so.
cases like that.
I
The
think
fact
it's
that Jussie Smollett had to fake his own crime means there's a lack of those things happening.
There have been plenty of cases, and even today, where minorities or poor people, really, I don't want to even say minorities, but poor people can't have the attorneys that other people can
Oh,
afford.
they don't care if it's a white person; it's got to be a black person.
Yeah, but
True.
that's been going on for 2,000 years.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that. I'm not defending that it's good or bad. I mean, I think it's
poor
bad.
Richard. Richard always gets ganged up on by us.
Richard, I get Richard. My point is this: is there
You're doing a good job,
political? Is there some political persecution going on? That's where I'm trying to go.
Yes, there is a that was my point earlier, that there is, number one, I think broadly speaking, there's an inapplication of consistency or a lack of consistency on the part of the justice system, frankly, in a lot of ways, that the liberals would say C, and that some conservatives would say C. That's the example of things like this New York subway chokehold or the Texas thing. On the other hand, the politicalization of especially on a national level of the justice system, looking the other way for Hunter Biden, looking the other way for the Biden family corruption. Those are clear. Whoever is running the DOJ, whoever's running the FBI, they have an ability, and frankly, they can wiretap some people in rooms. They can release, evidence that should be classified. But
you see, Richard, this is the difference. If Barr was if you go back in time with Trump and Barr, right? If Barr found out that Trump and his family was taking money from China with the exact same evidence that we've got, Barr would have arrested Trump and the family.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. I think that I have always felt that conservatives generally, we make exceptions, and Trump being one exception, but conservatives generally practice what they preach when it comes to standing up to corruption in their own party. When Newt Gingrich was found out that he was having an affair with one of his staffers,
They kicked him out.
they kicked him out. And whereas Bill Clinton was having an affair at the same time,
He got
and
reelected.
so I think that
Now,
there
that
are,
was his second term, wasn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when Nixon, frankly,
No, he got found out before he even won his first term that he was like
Yeah.
that.
You talking about Monica Lewinsky?
No,
Yeah.
I'm talking about Jennifer Flowers.
Oh, Jennifer Flowers.
Everybody knew about his affairs before this. Nobody seemed to care.
but anyway, but so the yeah, so I think that back to the point is it's a broken system in a lot of ways, and I think that I'm making a distinction between inconsistent application of justice.
Yeah, but Richard, I think
Where-
honestly, I truly believe we have fixed the problem of going after minorities and being evil to them. They can't find any cases of that happening. If they could, they would.
Massive progress, no question about it. Massive progress.
Yeah, but they don't act like there is any.
Speaking of which, this is something I've forgotten in our prep. Joe Biden
Joey
yesterday,
B.
just yesterday, Joe Biden in a speech says the biggest terrorist threat facing
Oh,
our
yeah.
nation today is coming from white men. Okay, where? Richard. Show
Why
me
would
one
you say
example,
that to a
one
black
example?
college?
If it's such a threat, if white men are such a threat, what? Give me one example of a group of white men attacking a black person in a terrorist way. Just one example in the past 2 years. Just one.
I don't know.
Pendo?
It's
I
all
think the last time something like that happened was about 20 years ago with Bush and that guy with the truck, the two rednecks that was in Texas, and they drugged the black guy. He was a gay black guy, and they drug him to death.
Yeah, that's right.
That was like the last time I remember there being some kind of a story where
But yet,
white people
but
were
yet the
abusing a
president of the
black
United
person. Like that.
States saying white men is our biggest threat. I mean,
It's a lie. Right.
not only is it a lie, it is intentionally
Yes.
polarizing.
Yes.
Okay.
It is intentionally. He's talking to a black college, and he's saying that.
I mean, it's
Why don't you get up there and say, hey, why don't we all get along and everybody should love each other and let's be good to it? No, I sure hate me some white people, don't you? Yeah, those white people, man, they suck, don't they? Yeah,
I mean,
I'm against
it's not-
Whitey, down with Whitey.
it's
That's
not
what that
the.
was.
I thought Biden was supposed to bring us together.
Well, no, because he was lying when he said that, because he was fucking talking.
look, there are clearly there are groups, nationalist groups that probably Timothy McVeigh types. If they had their way, they would blow up a federal building again. However, to say it is the biggest threat to the United States in terms of terrorism is this patently false, and it's dangerous because it does ignore legitimate threats. I have a question for just
Like
curious.
Black Lives Matter,
Like now, this
which is
particular
a terrorist organization.
this particular statistic is actually 5 years old, but just want to ask the two of you, how many active Klan groups do you think there are in the state of Georgia?
Richard, if they're there, no one sees them. They're in the dark, and they're certainly not doing anything. I mean, they're not acting out.
I can tell you, I got the answer.
I don't know.
I got
How
the
many?
answer. I've got the answer for you, Richard.
What,
many?
what-
Okay, remember Charlottesville? Remember a few years ago with Charlottesville? Remember the
Yeah.
with
Right,
the Trump controversy and all that? Okay, well, that meeting was supposed to be the national meeting of all white racist supremacists, the Klan, everybody was going to get together and they were going to do their thing. You know how many showed up? 200 people.
Right. So
There
so
were
just,
more protesters than
so
there
this-
were white supremacists.
just humor me. Guess how many active Klan groups in the state of Georgia there are?
I'm going to say zero.
Oh, I don't know. Probably a couple of hundred groups of like 3 or 4 at a time.
Two.
I don't think there's that many anymore. I don't
There
think-
you go. Two.
There's two. So I have sort of an interesting sort of stat to kind of pull up for you guys. Now, this is a U.S. News and World Report article, and this is according to the Anti-Defamation League, which is hardly a conservative. I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, but whatever. Okay, these are the Klan groups by state across the country, and most of these groups, according to the ADL, have less than 50 members.
Yeah.
Most have less than 20 members in them.
Yeah.
In other words, they can have a Klan meeting in your den, Tim. Like, that's how small they are. And so, Chris's point, when you start looking at what kind of threat these white nationalist groups, even if they were active and blowing stuff up everywhere, you're talking about probably less than 5,000 people in a country of 370 to 380 million people. It is a fraction of people. I mean, it's just a ridiculous thing for a president to say. Clearly politicized the issue. He's trying to throw race into an issue.
That's because he's an evil man.
He needs to focus on ISIS and on Al Qaeda and on the Chinese and not on an Iranian.
Well, how about the Mexican drug cartels putting fentanyl into our youth? It's killed more people than the Vietnam War. I mean, what about focusing on that? That's a much bigger threat.
Yeah, Billy Joe, Johnson, working down as a, working at a McDonald's somewhere, that attends a Klan meeting at his uncle's house once every 4 years, is not the threat to the United States. I mean,
and there are little black kids that run around, little kids that believe that they live in 1865 and that the whites run everything and they're being oppressed somehow. Like, if you live in Atlanta and you're black, I'm sorry, but blacks run Atlanta. They run the entire city. They are the system of Atlanta.
That's not anything to be sorry about. But to your point, there are
and that's sad.
Race is being made into something to divide people when they and politicians on both sides are using race as a weapon, mostly on the left, I think. But
I haven't seen anybody on the right do it.
I mean, there are times where it can't happen, but still. But
right. I haven't seen it.
All right. Well, the next topic we have is that there's new evidence, of the Biden crime family. It has been recorded and documented that the Bidens received over $10 million in cash, from foreign countries. And there's no legitimate business reason for the money whatsoever. Richard, what does this say about corruption at the highest level, and is anything going to be done about it?
Joe Biden thinks that it is this part of his fortune in life to leverage his name and let his brother and his son leverage his name and his role. He boasts about it. I mean, you go back to the Ukrainian thing where he said this guy was
the $3 billion on the plane.
You're talking about the accusation that they impeached Trump for, that he admitted to doing.
There's just no doubt at this point. In fact, there was a person who has seen the evidence came out, who's a Republican, granted a Republican representative, but she's seen the evidence against Hunter Biden. She said it's ridiculous the amount of evidence that exists, where the paper trail of shell companies that are started by the Bidens that then funnel money, where wire transfers are happening for $1 million for no reason from a Romanian source to a Biden company and then into a Biden bank account.
Yeah, but that Biden company did do a good service to the country. It was in front of his dad's house, and it was Hunter Biden sitting there, and he would sell lemonade and classified documents.
Pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much how it was going down. Yeah, and then Biden would boast about it, and I look when the Republicans
says he didn't say it.
When the Republicans came out this week and said, here's the evidence of $10 million in funds being transferred from Romania and China to the Biden shell companies. I looked, and there were literally no mentions of it on most of the major news source websites, including
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Okay, regardless of your political affiliation, if you're a member of the media, okay, and regardless of your political affiliation, if you're a member of the media, and the media is huge. I mean, when we talk about the media, we're talking about tens of thousands of, quote, professional reporters. Okay, why not one, just one of them come out and go, you know what, this is a story here. This is a real story. And
Because
and
leftism
it's
is
worthy
a
of an
cult,
investigation. It's worthy of an investigation, like the Washington Post did, you know, in Watergate. I mean,
Tim. Being on the left now means you are in a cult. If you go against the narrative, they'll come burn your fucking house down. They'll attack your children at school. They don't care. They will destroy you if you do not. That's why do you think they're attacking CNN so much? They let a nominee have a town hall. They do that all the time. But they let Trump do it, so they've got to burn.
no, I think there's some of that. I think it runs deeper than that. Richard, do you think Pendo's right that you have tens of thousands of reporters in this country that are just intimidated by their own people, and they just are scared to
They're
write a story on this?
They believe in the cult themselves also.
I think the media is by and large corrupt, and frankly, it isn't just the three of us. There was another poll again that came out this past week that it was like some like dramatic high number, like above 70 or 80%, that said, you know, in fact, it might have even been higher than that. That said that the media was untrustworthy and that they lie all the time, and that is not a good. You know, that's how far the media has fallen in 30 to 40 years. So you get something going on like Hunter Biden's artwork. This is an example of his artwork that's sold for, you know, $400,000.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh, what did he do that with his finger?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm an artist in my spare time. This isn't bad, but it isn't $500,000 good. That's for sure.
No.
So, but this kind of stuff going on, and meanwhile, the media is just yawning and forcibly protects the Bidens.
Yeah, I'd rather pay.
But Richard, why? Okay, first of all, it must be very difficult to organize all these workers in an entire industry. Okay, if George Soros is behind this or whatever, I mean, I don't believe that George Soros is handing out every news reporter $100,000 to keep quiet on this. I just don't believe that. I'm trying to understand the rational thought process of these tens of thousands of reporters that no one wants to bring this, you know, into the light. The only place you'll see it is Twitter and Fox. That's it.
Tim, why aren't you listening to what I'm telling you?
I'm listening.
It is a cult.
You sincerely believe that?
I believe leftism today is not leftism from a few years ago. If you step out, look what happened to J.K. Rowling. She agrees with everything with these people. She's a hard leftist. She said one thing about the trans. All she said was, well, they don't actually get periods. That's all she said. Now they want to burn her to the ground. They did everything they could to destroy her. Her connection with Harry Potter. The Harry Potter kids came after her.
They do the same thing to Musk, and I guarantee you that.
And thank goodness for Musk. Thank good. Had y'all been on Twitter since Musk took it over? It's an entirely different media.
Yeah, but why did he rehire that woman?
Well, I'll tell you why. For advertising revenue. That's why.
So she won't really be in charge of anything.
Well, she is a master at increasing advertising revenue.
No,
that's what she does.
She's not going to be deciding who goes on and off.
Oh no.
Well, that's all I care about.
Musk made that very clear. We're still going to be a freedom of speech.
Well, he can hire her to mop up or whatever. Yeah,
he made that very, very clear. Twitter's an entirely different platform now. thank goodness for Elon Musk. I mean, thank goodness for Twitter. I mean, you can go on Twitter and you can read about, the corruption, the Biden, or in the Fox News website, and that's it. I mean, that's the
And
only
Tucker
person-
Carlson's coming on too.
and Tucker Carlson. Yep. But
I like
Richard, I want to ask you. This is obviously a huge story. Okay, the Biden corruption it's there. Nothing's being done about it. Why do you think not one reporter in the mass media will bring this to light?
Hey, look at what happened to the reporter with the John Fetterman thing, where she said, I interviewed this guy, and frankly, I don't think he's there. I think that there's some serious concerns about his health. She was skewered, just drawn and quartered. On the other hand, you have another reporter who gets busted with was it LA Times giving the questions in advance to the Bidens, and that's exactly. I'm giving you practical examples to answer your question, Tim. That if you fall out of line, you either get fired or you get skewered by your colleagues.
But
That's what they do in cults.
hang on. Okay, these media outlets, okay, they are private companies on the capitalism economy, and they're trying to make a profit for their shareholders. I mean, they're capitalists. I mean, a lot of them are conservatives on the inside. Maybe they won't be vocal about it. I just don't understand.
No.
How, okay, wait a second. And they're independently owned. Okay, are they somehow organized?
It's all leftism, Tim.
But are they organized, Chris?
You're inaccurate.
Is the media organized? Yes or no?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah,
By
they
who?
send out flyers to each other. We
By
need to
who?
talk about this. These are talking points. They do it all the time.
By
They-
who?
Why do they always use this? Oh, by them, they just have Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Probably George Soros.
You're talking about these
Hold on,
competitors,
let me
these
finish. I gotta finish this.
competing,
Tim,
these competing news
listen.
organizations are having organized Zoom calls.
Stop. When you have, remember when Rush Limbaugh used to play a tape, and it would be the media using the exact same words over and over. Each network, each reporter, gravitas,
Yeah.
gravitas.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
why were they all saying the same word? Because they organize. They're a
Okay.
cult.
So they
Don't
have these
step out of line when
secret,
you're
they
in
have
the
these secret meetings, these secret Zoom
Yes.
calls. Okay. Richard, is that what you think's going on? These secret Zoom calls, and they're
I don't-
organized.
I don't think it's taking place in a Zoom call. I think what's happening is that there are sources that they get their talking points from that are
I think it's
distributed.
both.
And I do think, to Chris's point, that there very likely are, the whoever, like a producer at CNN talks to a producer at MSNBC, but
The writers together.
there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of reporters being lazy. And it isn't just political stuff, because, Chris, to your point, they say the same thing about earthquakes. They'll say the same thing about, some other event happening, like the border invasion.
It's like
And
they
it'll-
get together and go, "What are we going to say about this one thing?" All
No,
of them do it, and then they
A
come
lot
out.
of it's where they get AP sources and just read verbatim, and they're just being lazy and cut and pasting stuff.
True.
But I also think that when it comes to things like suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story,
They colluded.
they take their cue from people that might be like politicized CIA officers, and who are signing a document saying this is Russian disinformation, and then they use that and they go, okay, well, good, here's our source. We have 50 people or 100 people signing this letter. So, and then they run with it, knowing good and full well that they didn't validate that it was true, B, are taking the government's word for it that something is true when they shouldn't be doing that. And it turns out to be the exact opposite of the facts, is point number C, that in fact it wasn't Russian disinformation. It was legitimate laptop that,
And they knew it.
yeah, and they just yawned when even that came out. They issued a minor correction and went, well, actually, we were wrong on that 4 years ago, but let's move on. And then anyway.
It's
So-
utterly amazing. I mean, we pride ourselves in this country on having an independent media to keep our politicians in check, right? Well, that's no more. And I'm just deeply curious about. I mean, Chris, I hear you saying about, it's a cult.
It is.
I mean, you know, it seems to go deeper than that. What if you to go to journalism school and become a reporter, there's some kind of cult you have to join?
Every day the rules change, and you have to keep up with the latest gender, this, that, the other. And if you step out of line, they will come after you. Yes, I call that a cult. That is a cult.
Okay. It's
Hey,
utterly,
Richard, did you get
utterly unbelievable.
Did you get that Megyn Kelly thing?
I did. Yeah. But before we leave this, let's real quick. Cheryl Atkinson, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her or not. She won Emmy Awards. She won all kinds of awards for being very accurate, serious reporter. And she was with CBS, but in 2014, she resigned after 21 years with CBS, and then wrote a book later called Stonewalled, where she basically
I remember her.
CBS was basically blocking coverage of things like the Benghazi attack and other Obama things that were going on. And she since has had basically sort of spin off her own podcast and do her own thing, kind of like Megyn Kelly, where she says, you know,
What is
hey,
her name again, Richard?
Cheryl Atkinson, and it's SHARYL. Back to my point of people spelling their
I
names.
remember when she did that.
ATTKISSON. Cheryl.
So she was trying to be an independent reporter, but she was suppressed. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she quit, and she said, "I can't do this. Like, I'm a serious reporter, and I'm being told not to seriously report by CBS." And she wasn't. She's not a flaming, you know, right wing Breitbart, you know.
Yeah,
like,
she was just trying to be independent.
It's like
100%.
Tim Pool.
Okay.
So hey,
So my question is this, Chris: is you think that the brass, the decision makers at CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, every major newspaper in the country they're just all a member of this cult? Is that what it is?
the ideology of being on the left today is it's either you're all in or you're one of them. And that's how they look at it. That's why they think if you speak against them, it's violence and they have the right to attack you.
So
Crazy shit.
look at this as an example to prove the point. So Cheryl Atkinson, for 20-something years on CBS, everybody loves her. She gets all these awards for being a great news
Now,
reporter.
that top article makes her look bad.
Right, exactly. Like, start looking then at what happened after she resigned and wrote a book saying I was being, you know, basically told I can't report on things.
Yeah, they'll come after you.
She starts getting attacked, you know, attacked, and it's all basically, you know, other media sources coming out and saying, you know, that she's all of a sudden like in bed with white supremacists or something.
Okay, interesting. Well, Chris, I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, maybe the media is part of one giant Marxist cult.
What I'm saying is, if you're on the left today, ask J.K. Rowling if you're allowed to step one toe out of line. Just ask her. Ask anybody that is basically on the left.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. What would happen, Richard? What would happen if Fox News, as it exists today, tomorrow we wake up and it no longer exists? Elon Musk decides to take Twitter public again, and he loses that. What would happen? Would we have any way of knowing the truth?
Yeah, we're in a world now where, and this speaks to, because if we like plopped, I don't know, like a hyper liberal friend of ours in front of this podcast, they would be like, "Are you kidding?" All the right wing conservative sources like Breitbart and RedState.com and HotAir.com and blah blah blah. I mean, they would argue back, and I think that what I would tell you is that the vast majority of Americans do not get their news anymore from CBS, ABC, whatever. They just don't. They don't even get it from Fox News, frankly. You get it from online media sources, and you gravitate towards the ones that validate what you believe in the first place. I do. I'm sure the two of you do.
Everybody does.
Yeah, I don't go to msnbc.com. I
Yeah, but you know
will.
what the difference between us is? Our sources, like Tim Pool and different people that are on, they're not lying to you. The left is. Look how wrong the Young Turks are all the time. They never, very few times do they admit that they were wrong. They just lie to you. They know that what they're saying is not true. Our side doesn't do that. I don't know where they do. I mean, I haven't seen that with anybody on the right. Just you know why? Because we don't have to. We don't have to get up. A left-wing politician, when he's running for office, has to pretend like he cares about the Constitution when we know they don't. But a right-wing guy gets up there and he's running for Congress and he praises the Constitution.
Let's talk about one of those other media sources that would be an example of mine is for example, Megyn Kelly. She left Fox. Now she set up her own, broadcast that she then distributes. I think Tucker Carlson ends up probably doing something similar, at least in the near future.
Hey,
where they just set up their own sources and they start.
Richard, I know you've got to go soon. So let's get that Megyn Kelly thing out of the way.
Right. So this is the background of this is.
You want to provide some background to that, Chris, about the Charlize Theron thing and all that? Chris, go ahead and provide us some background of that if you would.
LA, Los Angeles, the Hollywood elite had a telethon the other day for the drag queens and the transgender people. A telethon. Because they're being systematically wiped out by right wingers. We're just gunning them down in the streets. How many have you killed, Richard? I've killed about 1,000. I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway,
I personally know someone who dresses in drag. He's a guy who I knew since my high school days. I'm friends with him. I talk to him. He doesn't attack me. I don't attack him. We focus on things we have in common, not only things we don't have in common. And life goes on, and
I don't care if the guy dresses in drag. What the rights are,
just don't do it in front of kids.
Exactly. The right is not angry.
I think that's what most people have a problem with.
Well, anyway,
I've seen Tim in a negligee, and it's it's if Tim wants to do that kind of thing, then
it's silky smooth.
Anyway, hold on, I'm going to throw up in my mouth a little bit. Anyway, they had this telethon, and Charlize Theron was daring people to do anything to think, because I'll fuck you up, is what she said. I will come after you if you do like anybody wants to. We're talking about children, you stupid, crazy person. Charlize Theron went to Africa and she adopted 2 black children from 2 completely different places. So these kids don't, right? Both of them are trans. Bullshit. She's tranning them is what she's doing. One of them
grooming them to be trans.
Yes, one of them came out at 3 years old. I wanted to be the Hulk when I was 3 years old. She's making these kids. What are the odds that both of your adopted children are going to be trans? I mean, give me a break. I don't believe that for a freaking second.
Very low.
Well, you have to say what she did was that she appeared on this telethon.
Yeah.
Then you know what? If they want to have a telethon, they want to raise money and give their money. Sure. Great. In fact, if Charlize wants to pull out of her millions and millions of dollars she has in the bank, more power to her. Give that money up.
But they have to threaten people.
But right, what she said was that if anyone comes after trans people to criticize them or drag queens, that she would F them up. Yep. So in response to that, and it was not against trans people. It was actually, that's what she said, but she basically said, went further to say, if anyone wants to interfere with the drag shows that are happening now with children present. And so Megyn Kelly, to set the stage for this, appears on her podcast and says, I've been to drag shows. Drag shows can be fun. I've enjoyed a few for adults. But when you bring kids in and some of the content that is now starting to appear where they're wearing sex toys and things like that, that's not cool. And so this is basically what she ends up saying. So
I got our final topic here. And that is pretty much every economist out there is predicting a recession. And the reason is that the Fed has increased interest rates more rapidly, more quickly than any other time in history. Mortgage rates have doubled since a year ago. Actually, more than doubled. I think they might have tripled. Same thing with car loans. Same thing with any sort of loan. Rates have tripled since about 16 months ago. So every economist say, "Up, we're going into a recession. We're in a recession." My question to you is, can we go into a recession with help wanted signs literally on every street corner in America? Ask you, Richard Sheffield. In other words, jobs plenty. I mean, usually, you think of recession as, oh, I can't find a job. There's no jobs. Companies are having to fire people. That's not happening. So, will there be a recession? Yes or no? Chris, your thought?
Me?
Yeah.
I think we're already in one, aren't we?
I don't know. I mean, there's help wanted signs everywhere.
The prices go up constantly.
Yeah,
Every time I walk into the store, I'm spending more money.
I guess here's my question. Can you have a recession with full employment? Actually, we're beyond full employment because there's labor shortage.
Hey, if anybody can do it, Joe Biden can find a way.
Yeah. Can you have a recession with full employment? I ask you, Richard Sheffield.
You know how many times I've watched CNBC in the last 5 years or read the Wall Street Journal? That's how much I care about. I mean, I do care about going into a recession, but I think the average American just says, can I have a job? Do I have a steady employment? Do I have steady money?
Yeah,
and,
that's
yeah. I mean, I think that look, I mean, I went to business school, Georgia. I'd like to think I know at least a decent amount about this kind of stuff. In the current economy, what is happening is that that unemployment numbers are being kept so low because there is a shortage of labor. And part of the reason there's shortage of labor is that we are paying people not to work. And we're going to respond to that, not by stop paying people not to work, but by flooding our southern border with workers that will come in and work for super cheap. There was a McDonald's franchise in middle America somewhere, I think it was Missouri, but I could be wrong, that had 2 10-year-olds working a fry station because they were illegal immigrants, and they had them making French fries in front of hot grease. That's what we're coming to as an economy. Wow. And so, so unemployment is low, true, but there are underpinning serious economic problems with our monetary policy, with energy, with other things that are being manipulated by the government. And, so.
Yay, we're becoming Ecuador.
Yeah. Do I think a recession will happen? I think we're, like Chris said, I think we're already in the middle of it in some ways. Consumer spending is starting to drop dramatically. That's a massive problem for our country. But I think that I think it will be manipulated to the point so that before the next election occurs, the recession will be either postponed or delayed.
Okay. Fair enough.
Or the worst is coming.
Fair enough.
All right.
Okay, folks. We have gotten into the final thoughts and predictions segment of our podcast. Richard, final thoughts and predictions.
So we did not talk about the border issue.
Oh, that's a big one.
It's a big one.
We can talk about that real quick.
Well, depressing. I don't even want to talk about it.
I got to pack. The elephant in the room, though, will become more of an elephant in the room. But right now, you systematically have hundreds of thousands of people being distributed across the country monthly, by the way. So we're talking about millions, probably, in excess of 1 to 2 million people added to the United States where they are not paying taxes, where they are benefiting from schools, from government services, from
definitely the hospitals, the ERs for sure.
Yeah. And
they use it their doctor.
And they are living here basically rent-free. Now, I think the vast majority of them, are honest. The vast majority, like 99.9% are hardworking people who just want to make a living, who are good people. But we need to do it legally, and we need to do it in a way that is not going to crumble and crush our government benefit system. And that's the problem.
Yeah, they're definitely crushing the emergency rooms. That's for sure. Pendo, your thought.
I
Final thought.
disagree with you, Richard. I think it's more like 80-20. I think about 20% of the people coming through are scumbags. Probably need to go immediately to jail because a lot of them are gang members, cartel members, terrorists.
I think
people that have just sorry people that just don't give a crap.
What we don't know is part of the problem. I agree with you that in the middle of those millions of people, there are people coming through that are drug members or gang members that are using the people to either transport fentanyl or drugs, or they're told, we'll get you into the US, but you have to work for us once you get there.
Yeah.
There probably are, a decent percentage of, so let's say it's, 2% even, maybe 3%.
I think it's 20.
Okay, so even if it's 20, let's just say 20 for the fun of it. My point is there should be a system where people are vetted, where people are not just released on an honor system and told come back in 6 months when they won't.
We had that. Joe Biden tore it down. He literally dismantled it.
Right. So I think that the problem we have is that
the Democrats don't go by the law. That's what the problem is.
Whether it's 0.5% or 20%, we should be looking at those people, looking at their backgrounds, looking at their cases.
We're not going.
But I think that we as a country have always kept our door open, whether you're Irish, whether
that's not true. One time, oh God, the president in 1952, Eisenhower shut the border down, wouldn't let for about, I think it was 10 years. They did a thing where no immigration because they said we're importing too many people from one part of the world. We're turning the country into something else. So they stopped it. And for 10 years, we had no immigration. They wouldn't allow it. And then they reopened it. And they did that.
Well, this is how naive it's become. And I don't know if it's really naive or there's some purpose to it, but can you imagine that border being wide open right after September 11th?
Oh, I know.
Can you imagine? So, we're always under threat. I mean, that's just the reality. We are always under threat. So why? I mean, why do this that could lead to another event?
You know what the answer to that.
September 11th.
You know what the answer is, Tim. They're replacing the white man with the brown man. They think they can use brown people to keep voting for them, and we'll end up with a one-party system. You won't have a Republican Party anymore. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
whatever you want.
Right. I mean, that is the reality. Because most of those people that climb over the border, they do vote Democrat. I mean, that's true. But their votes,
except for the ones from Venezuela.
But their votes aren't legitimate, which just leads to the other discussion that it's all fraudulent. I mean, there's so much fraudulent voting going on.
Yeah, but pretty soon they'll just amnesty these people. And then we're going to be
vote, and then they can vote legally. Okay.
Yeah, there's no question that the part of the Biden strategy. First of all, you have conservative organizations like the Chamber of Commerce advocating this kind of immigration policy because they want the workers, they want the cheap labor force. So this isn't a conservative versus liberal thing, but there are people on both sides who are manipulating this for their own benefit. On the Democratic side, they clearly would love to turn, like they have for Arizona, they would love to turn Texas blue, and they would love to turn, states like Georgia blue more than they already have, because if Texas goes blue, that it's over, in terms of any hope for a Republican winning presidential elections. But
that's the end of the country there.
That's part of the strategy is clearly, and there will be a point, whether it's 5 years from now or whether it's 15 years from now, it could be 5 months from now, where they say everybody that's in as of now gets amnesty, and you get to vote, and you get citizenship if you want it, and welcome on board.
That's their plan. That's exactly their plan, and then it's game over. So I'll leave this. Does anyone else have any final thought, prediction? Anyone else? Pendo?
I met Kirby Smart this past week.
Oh,
cool.
I got to tour the Georgia locker room and go on the field, and I continue to predict that the Dogs will not only win the SEC East, but will win the SEC again, and there'll be a third trophy in Athens this time next year.
I think they're going to win the national championship.
Three-peat, baby. Okay, I've got my final thought here, and then we'll wrap it up here. Okay, Trump. He takes a lot of flack. Oh, the Smiths. Okay. Trump, he takes a lot of flack for his personality. Okay. But his policies, the best conservative policies in the past 50 years, I'm going to back it up. The 3 pillars of conservatism, the 3 pillars. Number 1, at the very tippy top of the list, pro-life. What did he do? He is directly responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade. Jeb Bush would not have accomplished that. Okay, immigration. That's the second on the list for conservatism. He is the leading candidate by far in immigration. What did he do? He built a wall, or is building a wall. Jeb Bush wouldn't have done that. Taxes. Okay, this is the third pillar of the conservative movement. We want lower taxes. Donald Trump cut corporate taxes more significantly in decades, which led to our robust economy, which led to our booming stock market. He wanted to cut the corporate tax down to 15%. Okay, he cut it from 35% down to 21%. Why did it stop at 21% instead of 15%? Because Mitch McConnell, who was running the Senate, and Paul Ryan at the time, who was running the House Republicans, thought that was too drastic of a cut. Why? Because they're rhinos. But at least he got it to 21%. Those are 3 highly, highly impactful accomplishments. The fourth thing I'll just go ahead and add: energy independence. What was one of the first things that Trump said when he was asked a question about energy independence? He said, "Drill, baby, drill." He opened up the drilling in Alaska. Okay, Jeb Bush again would not have done that. Donald Trump is the man. He is the leading candidate for 2024. He is the most conservative president we've had since Ronald Reagan, and he is our choice to be the next president of the United States, regardless of what you think of his personality. He is the best candidate we have for 2024. There you go. I'll let you guys have any comeback to that. Richard, you disagree with any of my points?
I don't think he's the best choice, but whatever. We talked about Trump enough. I think he's an egomaniac Yankee.
But what about his accomplishments of those pillars of conservatism?
I think reducing government spending is a pillar of conservatism that Donald Trump did not embrace.
Yeah, Reagan. I think
Donald Trump could have been more forceful in getting the wall built because he didn't get it built. He just started it.
A large portion of it.
Yeah, but he had
no, not really.
No, Richard, you're wrong about that. He had stupid little Democrat judges stopping him everywhere he went. He couldn't get the wall done. They stood in the way.
Right. Well, anyway, without digressing on the wall thing, whether it was or wasn't full, it wasn't really dramatically started. He could have come to the American people the way Reagan used to and said, I'm being blocked. I'm being blocked by, this little Wisconsin-based Speaker of the House. And I'm being, there's different people that, got in the way, but whatever. Enough about Trump. I think they're probably better people, but still.
And thus concludes another exciting episode of Insanity Island. It's
Insanity Island. Insanity.
Come to the island.
Till next time. And Richard, safe travels, man. Safe travels.
Oh yeah, have a good trip.
Have fun in Vegas, man. I hope you hit the mother load on the slots.
If you don't see me here next week, it's because I won $4 million at a blackjack table.
Hey, make sure that when you're in Vegas, tell every single person in Vegas that I said hey.
I will. We'll walk around with a shirt saying Chris.
Pendo says hey.
This says hey.
And here's a Beatles shirt. Okay, over and out.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Later.